Yes, you lovely people, if you're not already, make sure you give us a follow over on Spotify.
Players are people who are competitive. They are there because they're driven, because they like to compete, they like to have a meaning in their life. And when you stop playing, what do you do when people ask you, what do you do?
Hello everybody, I'm Ben Foster. This is the Fozcast. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, you may have noticed that we are in a slightly different surroundings to what we normally do podcasts in, aren't we, Tom?
We are, mate. We are in some new studios that look $1 million.
They look $1 million.
More
and that's
like
because
$5 million.
they
Let's
probably
be
are
honest.
$5 million. Yeah, and they are absolutely top class. The audio, the video equipment is unbelievable. And that is because we are here at Spotify HQ on the Strand in London because we've got some exciting news.
Mega news for us.
Mega news for us. Mega news for the Fozcast. As of the 3rd of April, we are going to be part of the Spotify family. We will be a Spotify exclusive podcast. You'll still be able to watch us on YouTube. It's going to be awesome, isn't it?
Mate, super excited. And we're going to kick off today with a absolutely top tier guest, aren't we?
Top tier guest, somebody who is so impressive. We have got the PFA Chief Executive, Maheta Molango. Thank you for joining us, Maheta. We really do appreciate you coming, mate, taking time out of your busy schedule, and I know it is a busy schedule as well. First and foremost, for all the people listening at home, can you please just try and explain what it is that the PFA Chief Executive actually does?
It's a good question. And I'm glad that you're asking, because I think it's important that people understand what a union does, because that's what we are. We're a union. So basically what we do is really try to represent the players. And when I say the players, I mean Premier League, Championship, League One, League Two, and WSL. So we also represent the female players in this country. And what we basically do is, and by the way, not just the ones who are playing, but also the one who retired, which is something which is very special about this union, because typically a union only represents the active professionals. So once you stop being an active professional,
you're no longer a part of the
union.
union.
You can no longer have access to the union, but in our case, you can. So essentially, we have 55,000 members.
Wow.
Spread across various divisions, and also a number of former players. And basically the beauty of my job is that it goes from talking about women's football on a Monday, on a Tuesday talking about dementia, on a Wednesday talking about online abuse, on a Thursday talking about the calendar, on a Friday going with the player to a hearing to see whether he or she will be fine or not, on a Saturday attending a game and kind of talking to parents about transition post-career. So it's very, very broad. And it's basically everything that you can think about in terms of any need that a player, he or she needs during or after his career. So it goes from mental well-being to legal assistance to applying for an educational grant if you want to do an MBA somewhere. So it's I think it's what makes it so exciting for me to really, what I always say is that I think we try to change lives for a living. So every single pound that we generate or that we have is actually spent towards trying to help someone.
Okay, so how does it actually work? So when it comes to the PFA, the union, how does it work? Because I remember back in the day when I was younger, right, when I first got into football at age 18, the only thing I knew that the PFA did was I would get 2 pairs of Adidas boots free every year, every season. And it was like, oh my God, I've got a brand new pair of Adidas like Copa Mundials and a pair of Adidas World Cups. And I was buzzing about it. And that was literally, I thought, the only thing that the PFA union does. So how do you make money, for example? How does the PFA make money?
I think you make a good point about the visibility of what we do. And I think we need to do a better job trying to make sure people know what we do and that we're available for them. So going back to what you were saying at the beginning, I think basically you become automatically a member of the PFA when you become a scholar.
Okay.
And I think you pay about approximately, £80 a year.
Is that what it is? £80, is it? Yeah.
And as a pro, you pay you pay £150 a year.
So every professional football player, whether you are me or Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, £150 gets taken out of their wages per season.
Correct.
Okay.
And the beauty of this country and the PFA is that automatically you get paid £6,000 that you don't contribute to into your pension scheme.
Okay. Yeah.
So you pay 150, and minute one you get paid into your pension scheme £6,000.
Yeah.
That you get for every year that you're a professional, and that you can basically rescue when you basically retire. So that's just one example of what the PFA does, no, but it goes well beyond that. So you have like the boot, obviously the boot voucher, the famous boot voucher.
Do they still do that, by the way?
Yeah, we still do that. Which depending on the level that you play is a pretty cool advantage.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was 18, I first became a footballer. I was on £250 a week. So when I get given 2 pairs of brand new boots, I was thinking, get in there. That's £100 pair of boots each one that I haven't got to buy you, which was brilliant for me.
But I think it goes then far beyond that. I think, I've played in different countries and stuff like the standard contract we have here in the UK. People take this for granted, but it shouldn't be taken for granted.
It's true.
The level of protection that you get as a player, you don't get that in Spain, don't get that in France or in Italy.
You hear some horror stories about...
What do you mean about the level of protection? What do you mean exactly by that?
What I mean is that what we have here in England is a standard contract that basically has different clauses that protect you. For example, can the club kind of get rid of you if you get injured? The answer is here is no. Or under certain conditions,
sure.
Is there like a minimum guarantee in terms of your wages being paid? Absolutely, which is not the case, for example, in other countries.
Yeah.
I had to struggle to chase my money at the end of the month in Spain.
In Spain?
At the top club that I was playing for. Whereas here in England, is never a question, will I get paid? The question is when.
Yeah,
not if.
It's definitely going to happen.
And hence, I think sometimes you need to take a step back and understand where you come from. How did you get to that standard contract? This is the work of the PFA. How did you get this pension scheme payment, which, by the way, is a levy on transfers? So the PFA managed to make sure that basically the Premier League will pay into a fund a percentage of all the transfer which occur in this country to then fund the pension scheme. So that's the way it's funded. But this is thanks to the work of the PFA.
See, these are the things I think people need to be made more aware of, because, like you say, there's horror stories all the time of people moving out to places on those, say, like Turkey, or do you know when they go to the Far East or something like that, and it looks brilliant on paper. They're earning £2 million net or whatever it might be, but the reality is that if that team goes on, has a bit of a poor run or whatever, they don't end up getting paid that month. Absolutely. And there's pretty much nothing they can do about it either. They might have a union, but it doesn't really do much for them when they're out there.
And also what happens here as well is every time someone tries to change or to amend that contract, we have a veto right.
Okay.
So if the Premier League, the EFL or whoever wanted to amend that contract, we could basically prevent it from happening. In fact, last year, you may recall that the EFL tried to impose a salary cap, which would have been very damaging for the players, and the PFA was able to prevent this from happening.
Is that what? So who makes a decision? So, for example, the salary cap, who makes a decision that we don't want this?
So just to give you an example, in Spain, they would say to you, those are the rules.
And it's happening?
And it's happening.
Wow.
Here, they'll need to go to a committee that we have where we sit there, the FA sit there, the Premier League and the EFL sit there. We call it the PFNCC. And then there needs to be agreed by everyone. So if we say no, it doesn't happen. If they say no, it doesn't happen. So everyone needs to be in agreement with it.
Yeah. How many people are at this table when this happens?
It's just the main stakeholders. So basically us, EFL, which is the English Football League, the Premier League, and the Federation, the FA, and us. So 4 main stakeholders.
I think that the really important thing here, to add a bit of context for the PFA, a lot of our listeners will probably think, for someone like Ben's had a long career predominantly in the Premier League, haven't you? And whilst I'm sure you're grateful of the PFA support, your concerns or worries aren't that of a maybe a League One player or a League Two player, or even like a kind of middling lower championship player. So to have the support contractually, legally, and the pension is really important, isn't it? Because the pension used to be 35, but it's moved to 55. Is that right?
But I think you're making a good point, which I think is very interesting, which is I think there was this perception that maybe 18 months ago, if I'm a Premier League player, what can a union do for me really? If I'm making good money, I'm in the prime of my career, I'm in the Premier League, why do I need a union? And I think what COVID has shown a lot of the players, and hence the reason for me being here, is that there are certain stuff they cannot solve on their own.
Yeah. So
irrespective of how big the platform they have, or how well they're known, or the agent work, whatever, they cannot solve certain stuff on their own. So, financial fair play cannot be solved on your own. Online abuse cannot be solved on your own. The match calendars cannot be solved on your own. So I think the players have understood the need to do stuff collectively, and to have someone sitting at the right table to influence those decisions.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's all good to use your Twitter or Instagram account, but ultimately you need to be able to sit at the right table.
Yeah, you need to get to the point.
The decision.
Action has to take at some point.
Otherwise, you can complain on Twitter, you can complain on Instagram, but unless you are sitting at the right table, with the power to influence the decision, it's pointless. And I think this is what I think a lot of players have found out at the highest level. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm very excited to be here, and I can see how people are very committed to what we're doing.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when you first, like, almost your opening line of the podcast was "We are a union," and there's certain aspects which over the years, like looking at it from a fan point of view, you will hear in the press and see on Sky and whatever that a player has been fined 2 weeks' wages, for example. That could be a Premier League player. Now, when you look at that in a kind of normal environment, normal job, so to speak, so if you work in an office, if I was turned up to late 3 times to work, if I turned up late to work 3 times, I wouldn't be expected, to be fined 2 weeks' wages. So
how does that fly in football?
How does that work in football that a club can decide, well, we're going to fine you 2 weeks' wages, when in any other workplace that wouldn't be accepted?
I think there are a lot of things that happen in the football place that would not be accepted in any other place.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm sure you'll agree, Ben, I think the power of the manager is unbelievable. So your entire future depends on someone who can basically decide at his discretion whether he puts you in the starting level or not. And your career depends on that.
Yeah.
So when you think about it carefully, this is like, sometimes I give the example, it's like you're rehearsing for a show the entire week, being so kind of thrilled and ready for the show, etc. And you turn up on Saturday and you just don't know if the person who's running the show will put you on stage or not.
Yeah.
Because in a normal workplace, if this happens, you need to provide a reason for it. To explain why, because there's a risk of discrimination, etc. In football, you just turn up and say, Ben, today you are sitting on the bench. Why? Because.
Simple as that.
It's
true.
And,
it's true.
And it's frightening because, and that's probably one of the reasons, that kind of led me to think about other options in my life. When I was playing, because it's, when you're 18 and you've got the dream of becoming, Cristiano or Messi, which in my case never happened, but I tried hard. Sometimes you accept stuff just because you've got a dream to pursue. But when you become a bit more mature and etc., you're thinking, am I really doing this for money? So am I really kind of, accepting that I'm going to turn up on Saturday, being out of the squad, and then my kids ask me, why are you not part of the show?
Yeah.
And the answer is, I don't know. So this 1 week, and then the following week again, and then again, and then again. And after 5 weeks, you just don't know what to say to your kids and to your parents. And it becomes difficult, because then the question, so a lot of people just think that footballers are just driven by money, and they're kind of those 11 spoiled kids who run around in shorts and make a lot of money. And I think it's a very unfair description of the situation. I think, I was saying to someone the other day, there are 4 million people playing football in this country. 4 million. Only 3,500 make it as professionals.
Incredible.
So even the sub at Lincoln City, so me, has left 3.9 million people behind him to get it there. Is it luck? Is it being spoiled kid? I don't know, but I give it a lot of value.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, for example, I was a pretty good student, but I realized that on the pitch, my decision making was very poor.
Really?
Yeah. So the type of intelligence that you need on the pitch is a real type of intelligence.
It's completely different. It's completely different.
It's a completely one.
It's a smart.
It's a spatial one. Is how you kind of move within a certain space. How you can kind of move smartly. How you can pick certain situations. How you can kind of have an all around kind of vision of the situation. This is a way of being intelligent. So in my case, I was a good student, terrible in terms of my intelligence on the pitch. And I realized this has a value, and this is probably why people pay what they pay.
For the top players.
For the top players, and the ability to make decisions under pressure. So try to kind of go up and down the stairs here, the 4 floors, for 5 minutes, and then come down here and try to make a proper decision on something which is important. That's exactly what the players do. They make tough decisions at 180 pulse a minute in front of 70,000 people, and they're 20-25. So when you think about it kind of from a distance, and you move away from the typical kind of dismissive narrative about professional footballers who seem to be spoiled and make a lot of money, try to do it.
Yeah.
You think it's easy? Try to do it.
You just say, I've been in football for 20 years, Maheta, and still every day you see players doing it, but now and then on a Saturday afternoon, you'll come up against a big boy, a proper player, a world-class player, and then you see it. You see it for yourself with your own eyes.
What about the weekend, Ben? Sorry to interrupt. What about the weekend when you played Arsenal?
Exactly.
I watched it on TV. I didn't go to the match, but it was the first time I've really sat and watched Odegaard
Yeah.
and he is something.
Odegaard and Saka on Saturday, they've just got it. It's like, it's so plain to see. And again, like people at home, like you said there, people at home on Twitter and all that kind of stuff will be going, he's rubbish or he's rubbish. Even the Lincoln City defender, midfielder, the one that's on the bench, he's rubbish. He only plays for Lincoln City. There's 4 million other people, 3.5 million people that they've left behind. But like you say, they're the ones that you really do see the difference. You understand why they get paid the big money.
So it's the beauty of, I guess, of the game. No, I think you need to learn to accept that in football everyone thinks they can do better than you. Maybe on the pitch, maybe as a lawyer, a sports lawyer, maybe as an executive, everyone thinks that they can do a better job than you.
Yeah, sure.
And then the question becomes, why do you think they can do a better job than me? And the answer is, I've watched a lot of football games. And then my response is, well, I've been to the dock a lot of time. Does this turn me into a GP?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
It's true.
It's very
but,
true.
But it's but again, at the same time, I think we need to accept that we get paid what we get paid because people have an interest and people comment and people buy and spend. So I think it's part of the thing, but it's very frustrating because, when you've been part of the normal world. So when I was a lawyer at a law firm, forget about the sports side, just doing normal kind of legal work, and I filed an appeal, no one would dare challenging my appeal outside of other kind of specialists in this type of legal area. But in football, everyone challenges your expertise.
Yeah, of course, yeah. They think they know better.
Oh, yeah.
They all think they know better.
Most of the time, in my case, it's the case. It's true. They know better than I do.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
I'd say you're doing something right, Maheta. 39 years old, chief exec of the PFA. Incredible job. Let's take it back to the football career quickly, because I don't know if a lot of people know that you were actually a player. Okay. Talk to me about your football career briefly, if you don't mind. If you want to go into details, whatever. But sure. I've got one question for you in a minute. But yeah, talk about your football career.
It's been I think an interesting journey in the sense of it was an unexpected journey. Because I was playing, amateur football in Switzerland. I just been like Swiss champion under 19, and really the path was continue playing amateur football and study law. And all of a sudden, one day someone basically brought Brazilian players on trial at my club. And after the session, he said to me, "No, you're a good player. I'm going to bring you to Barcelona." And I said, "No, I think
you got the wrong person.
I am paying to play." So I pay my club to basically allow me to play.
Subs, you pay your subs,
exactly.
Basically.
I pay my fees, I said, no, you're a good player, etc. And the guy, like 2 weeks down the line, came and basically got me a trial at Atletico Madrid.
Wow.
Which is, when you think about it, you're thinking, this young guy who only played amateur football in Switzerland, how can he possibly kind of be successful in that trial? It's impossible when you think about it.
Yeah, sure.
Yet I went there and did well and I got the contract.
Wow. Then, how old were you at this time then?
I was 18.
Wow.
I was 18. So then I moved to Madrid, didn't speak the language. Like such an amazing kind of, life opportunity to just kind of discover a new city. I mean, when you get with 18 to Madrid, it's like God exists.
Yeah, sure.
It's just such an unbelievable
How did that work at the time? So the contract, I can imagine, like say when I was 18, I was on £250 a week. Madrid, very similar sort of money?
It was. I mean, for that age at that time, it was good money.
Yeah.
But I think money has never been kind of the thing. It's just a consequence of what you do, right?
Yeah, sure.
It was fantastic. So I spent 2 years there. It was when Atletico Madrid was in second division, and Fernando Torres just made his debut that season.
Wow.
And they failed. They didn't go up, so they stayed in second division that year. So I spent 2 years there. I was actually playing for the second team, and then I moved to Germany for a year. Played in second division there, and then came here. Played for Brighton in the championship. I think we must have played against each other.
I think we did, yeah.
Or maybe I was in the stand and you were playing.
I don't know. Maybe I was in the stand as well, mate. Honestly, there's a good chance.
And so then I was at Brighton. Then I went to Lincoln City under Keith Alexander.
Yeah.
What an amazing man, trailblazer, probably one of the first black coaches in this country, and a fantastic guy as a person, spectacular. And then I went to Oldham under John Sheridan.
Yeah.
Then I was at Wrexham.
Wow, you have done the lower league ones. There's some proper clubs
You're
there.
both at Wrexham.
Yeah, I was at Wrexham for a while as well.
Were you?
Yeah, I was at Wrexham online for
race
a bit.
ground.
Yeah, the racecourse ground.
Racecourse
ground. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, people there are very, very friendly, welcoming.
Yeah, they are. Sure.
Passionate. It was good. I keep great memories of it. Yeah. So that's what I basically did, and then I had the last spell at Grays in the conference as well.
Yeah.
So effectively, I played in every category apart from Premier League.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
so what was it? At what moment did you know or think, oh, I've had enough now? I've had enough.
I think, as I said to you, I think you evolve as a person, and stuff that when you were 18 you were ready to accept. I think when you were 25, no longer so. And I was asking myself, am I really ready to go through certain stuff just because of what? Because of money? Or what exactly, why am I accepting stuff that I would never accept?
Yeah.
Otherwise to be treated in a certain way by certain managers, certain kind of teammates or certain environments. And luckily enough, I had done so I studied whilst I was playing.
Wow.
So I did 2 degrees, a law degree and a political science degree.
So you did 2 degrees whilst playing?
Yeah.
Wow.
So basically I started first going to university in Madrid. That's where my girlfriend, which is now my wife, where I met her. And then she was basically then sending me the books to Germany and sending the books to the UK. And I'll just study on my own and just travel back and forth for the exams. That's why EasyJet became so successful. I financed them.
Wow.
And basically my studies finished at the time that my contract in Brighton finished. And the question became, do you want to continue being this, average player, which pursues maybe the dream of one day being the Premier League, but the reality at that stage was not really that, or do you give yours a chance to have maybe a successful career elsewhere? And I decided to basically try the different route, and it's funny because I left Brighton. I think it was March.
What age? Sorry,
25.
Yeah.
And I joined Baker McKenzie, the law firm. I was fortunate enough to be able to join this American law firm called Baker McKenzie in Madrid, because that's where I studied. And when I joined the firm, I thought, well, let's give it a try. Then depending on how it goes, I may just kind of find a club in the summer, because that was April.
Yeah.
And that's where I realized that, at the time, the partners, so the highest level of lawyers, they were 32, 31. So thinking then my idea of having a career until 35 or 36 and then having another successful career of the field, it wouldn't be happening, because then I would need to start as an intern at 36 and hence. So then, and I realized that partner was making very good money, but not just for 10 years, for as long as his career was last. So the question became, do you want to kind of stay a pretty mediocre player going here and there, and then at 35, then your life will go downhill, or you stop early and you give yourself a chance to have maybe a successful career off the field.
So what's that like when from going to, so you're a professional footballer, you're training day in, day out, that's your job, and then all of a sudden you're going into a law firm and you're working there. Is that a big old sort of culture shock for you?
It's very difficult because you need to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
And to start with, I realized I had no hobbies.
Really? Never had any hobbies?
Because the reality is that since you're 8 or 9,
football.
your life revolves around football. And people don't realize, but really the weekend, there's never been a choice.
It's football.
The weekend is basically you rest if you play on Sunday, on Saturday, and then you play on Sunday, and vice versa. So all of a sudden you miss the structure around football, right? Because as you know, you kind of it's very structured. On Monday you do this, on Tuesday you do that. On
you
Wednesday
get told
you do that.
what to do.
Exactly, and all of a sudden there's no structure around you, so you need to kind of reinvent yourself from that perspective. And equally, you get to that law firm, and at 25 you're already kind of towards being an experienced kind of player within the dressing room. But in real life, you're a baby.
Yeah, sure.
So all of a sudden they treat you like a baby, So the client here, take care of the client, and but I played in front of 25,000 people, So it's tough to accept that you need to kind of start from scratch again, reinvent yourself, accept that that you need to kind of again go up the ladder and challenge yourself and earn kind of a space for yourself,
I think that's amazing, though, the point you made about being a baby in life, because we look at footballers and we all watch a lot of football, I'm sure, and I know our viewers do and stuff. And when you see a player hit 32, 33 and they say they're a veteran, and they're retiring.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 39 in a month, and then in the footballing world, that's really old. But then when the career finishes, even at 40, you're a young man.
I don't
and
know,
you've got
mate.
many years ahead
if you
of you.
could feel my knees and back
No,
and everything
no,
when
no.
I get out of bed in the morning, I don't feel like a young man, mate.
But
No
this
chance.
it is true though, isn't it? Because if you go mid-30s and you then walk away from football, you're a very, very young man, which is, I think, part of the conversation we've been having lately is if you've had a very, very good career, you turn 35, 36, you finish playing football, you might have some money in your pocket, which is great, but then what? If you don't want to go into coaching and don't want to go into media,
Yeah,
and not everyone gets the option to do that.
No, sure. I think so. Say for example, so what would your advice be to anybody coming towards the end of their football career, for example, like maybe retirement's a year, maybe 2 years in the future? What is your advice to anybody at that age to try and set in motion something for after football?
I think to start with, acknowledge that when you stop playing, the phone goes silent.
Sure.
Irrespective of how many titles you win, because people win title every year.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just keeps moving, doesn't it?
So you think that you're special, but you're not special because people win title every year. So there are people winning the Champions League every year.
Yeah.
And the FA Cup and the Premier League, etc. And I think, when you're asking the question before, the question that people ask me a lot is, what does a League Two players have in common with Ben Foster? What do they have in common? And I say, well, much more than what people think.
Mm.
Because to start with, 99% of the people when they stop playing need to work. Most of them because of the money. Because from 35 to 85, you better have done a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just that, the problem is not how much you earn, is how much you spend.
Yeah, for sure.
The problem is what you have left net in your bank account. Because when you used to play for Tranmere in League 1 or League 2, you used to go to Benidorm on vacation. When you move to Premier League and your teammates go to the Maldives, you typically go to Maldives as well on vacation. Sure. And you switch your Fiat Punto for a Bentley.
Your standard of living just becomes more higher.
So you say to me, yeah, but you can control it. Yes, you can, but up to a certain extent, and you'll be dragged into certain type of investment that you wouldn't be dragged into when you're in League 1 or League 2. So the question is, yes, you make a lot of money, but then you also spend a lot of money. And the problem is that when you stop playing, the invoice for the big house and the big car still comes in.
Still needs paying.
Yet you become the assistant manager at some whatever random club in League 1, League 2 on the conference. And what you used to make a week, you make it a month. Gross.
Yeah.
Gross. And hence, 99% of the people need to work because of money. And 1% need to work because of purpose. Because people are competitive. They are there because they're driven, because they like to compete. They like to have a meaning in their life. And when you stop playing, what do you do? When people ask you, what do you do? And I know people, I've got a friend of mine who won 2 back-to-back Champions League as a starter. He's struggling now.
Really?
Mentally, because what do you do?
What's his purpose,
exactly,
basically?
What's your purpose?
Yeah.
And when when there's no answer, it's tough. So, and this is across the board.
Yeah.
And money or status only increases certain difficulties and certain situations.
I think that can be scary. It really can.
It gets
I think
overlooked.
It does. It massively gets overlooked. I think one of the bigger things that opened my eyes up was actually the first initial COVID lockdown, Maheta, because I'd never been in that situation where I'd had 3 or 4 months completely off at home, sort of away from everything. You wasn't allowed to go and do anything. And it really did get my brain thinking, would this be what retirement's like? Do you know what I mean? I've got no purpose almost. I've got nothing to do. I've got nothing really to drive me to keep fit. And because one of my big drivers of why I get on the bike a lot is because I know it aids my football. When I'm on the bike, it keeps my legs strong, my head clear, all that kind of stuff. For a brief period, I had a couple-week period where I thought, well, I don't want to get on the bike because I haven't got no football to go forward to. And then what do I do? And it was a weird period, honestly. It was such a weird period. So I think that for me was a massive eye-opener of, right, I need to get something going. I need to get into something. Like I say, I've got hobbies anyway, but I really want to set in motion something where after football I can just seamlessly slip into. But it's hard because not everybody can do that.
Well, it's a little bit like yourself, Maheta. You realised for probably one reason that you wanted to do something else and obviously went down a career which you've done, which has been very successful. And Ben, you're probably in a different camp where you're kind of thinking that 1%, what's the purpose? So you'll hit 40 and then it's what then? And that's what we've done with the podcast, with the YouTube channel. We've kind of built something for you long term, and with our agency as well. But one of the key questions I wanted to ask you is, do you get many players that might be on £1,000 a week rather than £100,000 a week? Do you get many players that approach the PFA that are maybe 29, 30 that say, I need some help to figure out
Some guidance.
what I'm going to do in
Yeah.
3 years or 2 years.
Yeah, I think the beauty of what I've seen so far is that you get both. You get very successful players who say to you, what's next? You know, you've gone through that yourself. How have you kind of faced it? What type of question have you asked yourself? How have you kind of identified, you know, what value you can have for people outside of football? And then you have people, you know, with a more modest career who have different type of issues. No, so
Yeah.
again, this is across the board. It's across the board. I think the one thing I tell them all is, I think football is such a powerful platform for you. So you can either let the system use you
Yeah.
until you're no longer fit for purpose and then you're replaced, or you can use the system to your advantage. So right now, as Ben Foster, Premier League, I would say 99% of the people, business people you talk to, will at least give you a chance to talk to them.
Sure.
Just because you play in the Premier League, because you've got a career, because you've got a name. If you do it now, they'll open the door. If you do it in 2 years' time, become one more of the 50,000 stop playing.
Too late, almost.
And then it's going to be maybe too late, because then people see you as someone who maybe is seeking like an opportunity, and then maybe they're not so
Desperate,
open.
a bit desperate.
Correct.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas right now you can leverage the fact that you're a Premier League player, that you've got the status, that you're still appear on TV. So it's almost acknowledging that the business is like this,
Yeah.
and accept it that, you know, you'll be used. But the question is can you then turn this into you using the system for your own advantage?
Yeah.
Whilst you can do it, and then once it's time to move on, just accept that life is like this. I would love to be the same guy that appears on TV, like, you know, that appears on that screen 20 years ago, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my wife will confirm it, you know. That's the reality. I'm no longer that young guy who, no, I'm what I am.
You're different. You're just different. It is what it is.
It's part of life.
Yeah.
You know, and hence you need to accept that you're no longer that young 20 years old guy who thought that could kind of was unbeatable, and now you're in different phase of your career. You've kind of taken on board other stuff.
Yeah. I think
It's not better or worse. It's just different, no?
Yeah.
for sure, different. Yeah, I think one thing I've really sort of noticed over the last not couple years, maybe 4, 5, 6 years, maybe, is the voice of the sportsman and how much weight it carries nowadays. You saw with Marcus Rashford over lockdown with the school meals, all the incredible work Raheem Sterling's been doing with regards to racism. Nowadays, modern sort of sportsperson, they what they say actually it goes a long way now. They can make decisions and change things for the good.
Really really influential, don't they?
Yeah.
And we were talking about it earlier on, just before we started the podcast, weren't we? You came into role in July last year, whilst the Euros were on, and there was one particular incident which I want to talk about where Priti Patel had said that the England players had been displaying gesture politics
with taking the
for
knee.
the anti-racism. And then Priti Patel also posted a tweet saying that they were disgusted, that she was disgusted that England players had been given abuse and racist abuse at that. So, like Tyrone Mings, this is last year, a year ago, Tyrone Mings has come out, put a tweet out and saying, you don't get to stoke the fire at the beginning of the tournament by labelling our anti-racism message as gesture politics and then pretend to be disgusted when the very thing we're campaigning against happens.
Yeah.
Well, as a player, Ben, when you see that, what do you think about that?
It's brilliant. I think there's so many players who are afraid to do things like that, and rightly so, because not everybody's intelligent enough to put it in a way where it makes sense and you can back it up with an argument and stuff like that. But obviously Tyrone Mings, he's an intelligent guy anyway, and the way that he's worded it was absolutely brilliant. But he's bob on though. He's right. What Priti Patel was trying to say was basically, you're just doing this for
Going through the motions.
Yeah, exactly. You're going through the motions, and then, like you say, when it happens, you know, you don't then get to come back and say like it's a disgrace, because we've been telling you about this. We've been trying to sort of campaign against it, kind of thing. So yeah, it was brilliant. But like I say, I don't think everybody can do that, just because they might not have the sort of the intellect to be able to put it down in words the way it should be done.
Do you think it's a confidence thing as well? Because you've got to remember the players a lot of the time will have a fairly easy kind of, they'll go through life playing. A lot of them are quite private. But do you think by making a statement like that or putting a tweet out like that, you're entering new territory, aren't you?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought with a kind of current event or something Have you ever thought about, has anything ever triggered you to think, I want to use my voice to say something?
I think that for me personally, I've always worried that I'm not sort of a big enough voice, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I think as I've gotten older, I've probably learned to not really care too much now what people think of me and when I type stuff. If I, like we were speaking earlier, weren't we, Maheta, where if you come with an opinion of something, you better be able to back it up as well. So if you feel very strongly about a certain topic, whatever it is, whether it's something in the news, anything like that, then you've got to have solid foundations for where you're going with that. But yeah, it's something that maybe like in the future, it's something I might be able to sort of get involved with, something like that. But to be honest with you, mate, I'm quite busy. I am, mate. I'm quite busy. I think I'm working 3 full-time jobs at the minute. With a cycling GK and the Fozcast and that football job as well. That football job.
Yeah, that football one's quite important, isn't it?
But it's true though. The voice of the modern sports person, Maheta, it's brilliant though. It's change. You can see change happening, can't you?
I think the level of commitment in general of the players is just unbelievable. They're informed, they're smart, they're committed. They see the big picture. They see beyond their kind of individual interest and the victory at the weekend. They see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But you and I were discussing before, I think football is a reflection of society. And it's not just football, is any company right now. The voice of your own employees is just very different. You can no longer instruct people to do stuff. You need to bring them along with you on a journey.
Sure.
And they expect you to bring them with you. And if you don't, they quit.
Yeah.
Maybe you and I are of a generation where, I was saying to you before, I never said no to anyone.
You just did it.
I just did it.
Yeah.
But so it was not part of my kind of my system to think that if my dad said something, it was just like this.
Yeah, sure.
And if I had the thought to maybe go a different direction, quickly understand why I had to go back to the main course of action. And I think what I realize myself now in management, of people is just the approach of, kind of thinking that people are happy to be told. It no longer works.
Really?
And I hope that again, I think football can lead the line in kind of suggesting a different type of governance. I think nowadays the employees or the players need to be part of the discussion.
Yeah.
They need to be part of what is happening, because otherwise you have a problem as a company.
Yeah, for sure.
They will either not perform or quit altogether.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to kind of hopefully change.
I think leading on from what you're saying there, so when the players having a voice and having a say on certain topics. Let's take, for example, the new notion of trying to get a new World Cup every 2 years.
Yeah.
For me, I would from the outset, I would say it's just too many games. It's too many games. I think footballers play too many games as it is. It's great for TV and it's great for the fans at home, but I've seen it at clubs where they have a Premier League game on a Saturday. There's a like a League Cup match on a Wednesday. Then it's another Premier League game. Then it's an FA Cup on the Wednesday. Then it's a Champions League match. And then once the season finishes, you're straight off with the international team. It just seems like it's too much for me. It really does. And I worry for players' kind of mental health, all that kind of stuff. Because you see it in cricket. Players go away with the cricket with England and they're away for months.
Yeah.
And how many stories have we heard of recently where players are coming out and they just said, basically, I'm burnt out. I'm burnt out. I can't do it anymore. My mental health has suffered so badly. I need to take a break from this.
I think that's the evolution of football. It's getting there and it is catching up with the sports. But I think importantly, one thing that does need to happen is for the fans to, as a whole, I know everyone's different, but I don't think there's the understanding there that players are allowed to have problems.
Yeah.
I think there is still a perception that you get paid £60,000 a week. So what are you worrying about? You see it all the time.
Just
comments, get on with it. Twitter, but it doesn't matter how much money you earn, does it? If you've got a problem, you've got a problem.
Yeah, sure.
And I guess when we're talking about retirement, how do the PFA help players that are having a kind of hard time mentally or addictions, for example? Is this something that the PFA are heavily involved with?
Yeah. So we have a mental well-being department.
Okay.
And equally, we cooperate with Sporting Chance, who specifically do stuff around, addictions, etc.
Yes.
My case is something that I really feel strongly about because my dad actually is a psychologist.
Brilliant.
Working with people who have problems of addiction, drugs, alcohol, etc. So it's something that I've seen, some of the devastating effect that this has on families and environments.
So you have a bit more of an understanding of it.
Yeah, it's... But going back to the point that you're making about, getting on with it because you earn whatever amount of money, I think ultimately I'd love to protect the product football, in the sense of I want my kids to fall in love with football the way that I fell in love.
Yeah, sure.
And I fell in love because my heroes, my idols, was giving me the best version of themselves.
Yeah, of course.
So when I go and I'm a Sampdoria fan, so I see Mancini and Vialli and Lombardo and all those guys, and they were playing Saturday,
Yeah.
Saturday, and sometimes midweek game. So I had the feeling that when I was seeing them playing, that was exciting. That was cool. Whereas I think now sometimes the question of, you go and watch a game and I see my kids find it boring.
Yeah.
But not because they don't love football, because they love it. And yes, of course, the discussion about, the attention span, whatever, yes. But the reality is my kids have followed like a second division game in Spain 90 minutes when they see like the best version of whoever is on the
Yeah,
pitch.
sure. Yeah.
So I think there's a concern on the mental well-being part and on the welfare of the players, yes, of course. But also there's a discussion about, we all live from football for a long time and we're fans. And I want to protect the product football,
Yeah.
I want to continue enjoying this. I want my kids to enjoy it. And I'm afraid that when you play on a Thursday in Bolivia at La Paz, 1,000 meter, you play then on Saturday in Burnley at -5, on a Tuesday in Leipzig, on a Saturday again, in London. It comes to a stage where, unfortunately, the football leave from their bodies.
Yeah.
So it's not a question of just turning up to work. So when I was at the law firm, if I had a bad day, I could manage even a week, even a month. Don't tell my former boss, but I could manage.
Yeah.
But on the pitch, you cannot.
No, sure.
You need to be able to give you 100% for yourself because you're a competitor, but equally for your fans.
Yeah.
So I think the discussion needs to go a bit beyond the typical kind of stereotypes of, you make a lot of money. That's all good. But let's now talk about a bit more kind of in a more sophisticated way. Those guys need their bodies
Yeah.
at 110%.
You need to be fresh.
You need to be fresh because otherwise it doesn't work. So what do you want? You want to see a show which is not what you actually pay for, by the way. And then you get upset about not seeing what you want to see. But then the question becomes, then people do other stuff. They're going to, on other stuff. And I want them to stay in football stadiums.
Yeah.
Not trying other sports or trying sorts of entertainment, because we compete against, not just against basketball or cricket, we compete against all the sorts of entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely.
With regards to the mental health, the gambling addictions, all that kind of stuff, have the PFA seen an increase in the amount of calls they've been getting, messages, sort of cries for help, that kind of stuff? Because I don't know, I can't remember what I've read, but I've read something that since COVID, everything seems to have just gone off the scale.
Yes, for two reasons. Because I think COVID made us all think a lot about our life.
Yeah.
And where we're heading to and what we want to do in life. And second, because I think there's more of an understanding that it's fine to be fine, to be not to be fine.
Sure, yeah. It's more accepted, isn't it?
I think when I was playing, I think it was a bit of a taboo, and you'd go to psychology if you had a problem. So like a pathology. I've got a problem, I go to psychologist. Now people understand that, why do I spend so much time in the gym when the most important thing is my head?
For sure.
And I invest zero time and energy and resource into the most important thing, which is my head.
Yeah.
And I think there is now a better understanding of the need to be preventive and the need of, it's fine not to feel okay.
Yeah.
And you need to share it. And sometimes just put into words what you feel is the beginning of a recovery.
Yeah.
No? And I think so there's more awareness about the need and the ability to speak up. And equally, I think there's an increase in concerns.
Yeah.
We just live in a world which is very kind of stressful.
Yeah.
Continuously. Now it's COVID, tomorrow is the war, before that it was whatever. So it's just a constant level of stress, latent, it's just there.
It just stays there.
I
think it's one thing I want to see. So obviously, like I say, I'm coming towards the end of my career, but I think it's one thing I really want to see implemented within football, within sports organisations, whether it's whatever sport it is, whatever arena it is more help for the mental health side of things. Because like you said there, that sure, more calls and it's becoming better and it's not so much of a taboo anymore. But I know for a fact there's some young players that just really struggle with it, mate. They do. They struggle with life. They struggle with being this sports person. Do you know what I mean? They almost label themselves as a sports person. And then they go on Twitter that night and they see all the poison and the rubbish and the crap, and it just seeps in. It just constantly seeps in. I think I would love to see it get to a place where it's almost mandatory that virtually every player has to go and see somebody, whether it's once a month, once or whatever, but some sort of thing like that where it's implemented in football nowadays, because too many people just go silent and they suffer in silence.
Well, look at what you said earlier on, Maheta, about a player maybe not playing for 5 weeks. So if you're a young player, burst on the scene, 20, 21 years old, social media, you play a good couple of games and social media adores you, Twitter, Instagram, whatnot, then you might not play for 4 or 5 games and you're on the bench. Now, what's the reason?
Yeah.
Now, as a young man, a young lady, 20, 21 years old, how do you cope with that? Like actually going and seeing and chatting to someone and saying, listen, does this happen at football clubs, Ben? Yeah. Do they say, listen, you're young, we're easing you in? Is this conversations that happen at football clubs?
Not brilliantly. No, not brilliantly. I think a lot of that depends on the manager. It's how that manager is, and you'll know that yourself, is if they've got the people skills to be able to do that in the first place. Because not all managers are brilliant people persons, are they? They don't have to be necessarily the best sort of at dealing with relationships and building rapport with people. That's not their remit. Their remit is to get results on a Saturday afternoon. So sometimes if it's a kid, for example, and you're just told, no, you're not even with the first team today, like, it's so hard. I don't know what the answer is, Maheta.
But when you've got 30 players, maybe it could be a resource thing where the manager can't sit and speak to an academy player and say, because he's, with the greatest respect, he's got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, but the problem is that there is this mentality still in football club that you need to be tough.
Yeah,
and to get on with it. That's life. Yeah, but being tough does not mean you need to be treated like a.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't do you can't say what you want and do what you want to people.
You can of course football is brutal and it's very competitive and you need to be tough. But to become a tough person, you don't need to be treated in a bad way.
Yeah, sure.
You can be treated with respect and yes, still get the level of mental strength to achieve what you need to achieve. And there's still this feeling that get on with it. You're on the bench, get on with it. I don't need to give you an explanation. But I'm a human being.
Yeah, that's true.
And yes, you're the manager, but you're not. Again, I think the level of power that the manager has is really frightening.
Yeah, it is. It's scary, isn't it?
People don't forcibly kind of understand the way this works, no. And I think that in general, managers have evolved, because maybe kind of they start to understand better what's going on. But I think there's room for improvement, and equally, I think ultimately the clubs are conflicted. Yes, they're going to listen to your problems, but ultimately they need to look for the interest of the club.
Yeah, they want results.
Which is fine.
Is that a cultural thing within clubs, though? So for example, you might have a player approach you or a player's representative approach you, and they might say, it's this player, it plays for club A. Do you know, as head of PFA, that certain clubs will have a better culture than others? So, for example, if you hear, and I'll pick a club at random, Blackburn Rovers, where you think, great, the infrastructure, the management, the whole structure from top to bottom is really good there, so we can help them, versus a club where you go, that's a tricky club.
You tend to know which clubs have a better culture than others. I think what we want to be is this independent sounding board for the players, because we don't have any other interest than them. So we can really kind of... So to me, I go back to the point of we're a union. We're not the employer, because people think, the PFA should be doing more. Hold on a second. Those players play for a club. The duty of care is on the clubs. Mm-hmm. So they need to do it. They need to pay for it. Yeah. Now, who is best placed to deliver the service? Us. Because we're independent, we've got no financial interest, and you can talk to me freely. But I think there's been a mix here of, the PFA needs to do it. No. The PFA is best placed to deliver the service. But the club, the burden is on the club, who basically makes money.
Yeah.
And basically makes the most of the performance of the lad.
And they see that player day in, day out. They
Correct.
see that, they know them better.
So I think we can be this independent kind of sounding board. Yeah. But ultimately the burden is on the club.
How have you found the job? So you've been in the job now for what, a year?
8 months.
We've met each other a couple of times. Today we've had some really good conversations, even before we came in the room. But I love the fact that you strike me so much as the guy that basically you don't really care what's been done before. You obviously know what's gone before and how it works and all that kind of stuff. But for me, growing up through football, it always seems that from all these sort of higher organisations, the FA, the Premier League, all that kind of stuff, it's kind of just, well, that's just the way it goes. That's how we do it. That's always been that way. But I love the fact that you seem to have come in and it's, no, we don't do it like that because we're a modern organisation now. We are trying to do it the right way, not the way of how it's always done. The right way. Have you come up against many sort of stumbling blocks or sort of people that are like, well, hold on a minute, that it doesn't work like that?
Well, as you can imagine, people sometimes are not used to that type of approach.
Yeah.
I think as we discussed before, I think the beauty of my situation is that first of all, I've got nothing to lose. It's not as if I'm concerned about this me. I'm here for the right reasons.
Yeah, brilliant.
So I'm really here because I think that the voice of the players, of the athlete, is at a level that is unprecedented.
Yeah, not been seen before, sure.
It's never been like this level of platform, of understanding of the collective strength, etc. And I'm not here to hang on to your role or to money. I could go back to a law firm and make more money than what I'm doing here.
Really?
So we all want to pay our bills and invoice, but I'm not driven by I'm driven by the idea of trying to help players because I've been a player myself.
Yeah.
Then I went on the other side of the fence and saw how clubs think. I had to interact with agents as well. So I've seen it from different angles, and hence I think there's a unique opportunity to really try to help, and I'll do whatever is right to do.
Brilliant.
Without being kind of hamstrung by, let's see what this guy thinks or the other guy thinks. At the same time, I hope that the various stakeholders understand that since I've been in different positions, I get it. So I'm not someone to want to be a radical in his approach. It's just let's try to work together. But it needs to be good for everyone.
Yeah,
not just for you.
I think that was when you were announced, when your appointment was made. I think there were people questioning it. But the more we talked to you, and when we were doing our research for the podcast, you come at it from you've experienced it as a player and not a player that played 20 years in the Premier League, for example. So you understand the kind of difficulties that players face, but you also have got the legal perspective doing what you do. And you were CEO at Mallorca.
Yeah.
So they were in the, what was it, league below the Segunda?
No, we did everything. So we actually had everything with them. I had the relegation and then 2 back-to-back promotions from League One to La Liga.
Wow.
So it was just
You've
like
seen everything, turmoil,
such an experience.
success,
like the worst.
Yeah.
So not being able to go with my family for the last 3 months to the stadium because they're literally kind of abusing us and throwing
really?
stones. Throwing stones to the kind of the coach, etc. So it was like really bad. To experience it with my kids, a promotion like in front. Top, bottom, like nothing in between.
Whole spectrum, yeah.
But who else would have experienced? Got your experience?
I'd say that's the reason probably why he's in the job, to be honest. So. Because every box was let him in tick, like he's been there, seen it, done it, kind of thing. It's brilliant, isn't it?
When you were in Mallorca, I've got a quick question. I watched a documentary not so long ago. When you got relegated,
Malaga.
No, Mallorca.
When
you got relegated, were you in the same league as the other Mallorca team?
Yeah.
Because historically,
correct, yeah.
Mallorca was a Primera, and then there was always 2 leagues.
Are we talking the Mallorca that used to play in the stadium in Mallorca?
Correct.
That bad boy. Yeah. We go cycling in Mallorca sort of thing every year. We're going at the end of the season actually, and you go past the old stadium kind of thing. You're thinking,
so Mallorca,
I'd love to sign for Mallorca FC. I would. Get me there.
There you go. There was always there you go. There's a deal. But there was always 2 leagues between the teams, wasn't there? And then all of a sudden, one got promoted, the other got relegated. And what was that like?
You're spot on. It was amazing because I think so what had happened is when I joined the club, that was in January 2016, and we were sitting 5th from bottom in the 2nd division, and had been there for the last 5 years. Although Mallorca was always a La Liga club, so there was already it's like Nottingham Forest sitting 5th from bottom in the Championship.
Sure. Yeah.
So people are really already upset because they should be in the Premier League, and yet it's there in 2nd division in the wrong hand of the thing.
Yeah.
So we stayed in the division, and then the following year went down. And then when you go down to League One in Spain, it's not like here, it's not one group, it's 4 groups of 20 teams.
Really?
There's no direct promotion. You need to go through a playoff to get promoted.
So the top teams from each 4 leagues then go into a playoff.
Exactly.
Wow.
And as you were saying before, Tony, when we went down to 3rd division, then we actually coincided with the other team on the island, which is Atletico Baleares. And obviously it was a very tough situation because Mallorca was not used to that. Baleares was like the game of the year, etc. But it's beautiful because I think there's no hero without anti-hero.
Yeah.
And hence being able to face the local rival kind of sparked again this feeling of belonging to the club, which was good because we beat them, you know.
Yeah.
We lost, it was different, but so I think you could see how the people kind of felt even more attached to the club after this victory. Great season, got promoted, and then straight promoted again from Segunda to La Liga with a budget of 5.5 million.
Wow.
Like for players and coaches.
Peanuts.
Wow.
Really, then.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
We're like the 14th budget in Segunda. And we made it to the playoff, finished 6th, won the semi-final. Then in the final, we played against Deportivo La Coruña.
Wow, yeah.
Another historical club in Spain.
Sure, yeah.
And they had a budget of 22 million.
That sort of Griezmann era, like he was probably just a bit after that, to be fair, Griezmann, wasn't he? But yeah. Anyway, sorry.
And the funny thing is that we lost 2-0 away from home, first leg, and we beat them 3-0 at home.
Oh,
so that was just...
Oh, that's the best feeling in the world.
What an experice.
That is the best feeling in the world, isn't it?
Just amazing. But going back to the point that you're making, I think people... One of the first program I went to on BBC or radio, they said to me, no, but surely there must have been people with more Premier League games than you. Why were you picked? And I said, well, first of all, ask the people who picked me, not me.
Yeah.
And second, I said to them, I think what people don't realize, the PFA is a £30 million institution.
Yeah.
With 55,000 members, 65 employees.
Yeah.
The oldest sports union in the world.
Yeah.
And I think it takes more than having played games in Premier League to run this organization.
It's not as easy as
You've got to have a bit of a business head on you, haven't you?
And I think that's what I say to a lot of players is what you learn unconsciously on the pitch is so valuable. Decision under pressure, resilience, competition. I mean, so many skills which are so valuable in the normal world. But then you need to complement this with other stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of other stuff.
Because having been a great player does not turn you into a great manager.
Yeah,
and does not turn you automatically into a great sport director or into a great chief exec. So if you can complement the experience on the pitch with a proper solid education and training, then you're unbeatable.
Yeah.
But it needs to be one and the other. So I can have played 400 games in the Premier League, but I may not be able to run a £30 million organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maheta came in the summer because just to introduce himself to the lads, say hello, all that kind of stuff. Came in with the referees. He had us eating out of his hand. He did, honestly. We were like birds all around his hand eating the seed out of it. He was incredible.
So
you were brilliant, mate. Honestly, he got up in front of everybody, in front of probably 40, 50 people inside the canteen. He spoke so well. Everybody was just straight away like, yeah.
So what happens like that? You just like it's an impromptu meeting called in the canteen.
No, it's not impromptu.
How does it work?
Every season you have the referees will come. They'll kind of try and they'll explain like the new rules. There's always little tweaks, little bits and bobs, what they're going to be hot on this season, what they're going to make a point of like highlighting, all that kind of stuff. And then obviously because Maheta had just been appointed, it's his time to come and introduce himself, tell him what what he's looking forward to getting at, working at, all that kind of stuff. So that's how he came into the building. It's good though, mate. You're very good. Very, very good, honestly.
That's interesting, really.
It's not an easy job, that, getting up in front of sort of 40, 50 lads and sort of then delivering to what you actually want to do. It's really good, mate.
And there were a few familiar faces because Cucho,
yeah, for sure,
I had signed in Mallorca.
Wow, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah,
he scored an absolute
He scored a banger,
worldie
didn't he,
at the weekend,
yeah,
didn't he?
he did.
So we signed Cucho on loan from Watford, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Cycling GK does Mallorca.
We're end of the season. We're out to Mallorca. As soon as the season finishes,
about the player.
Nah. So as soon as the season finishes, the last game's on the Sunday or Saturday. Sunday, and on the Monday we're flying out to Mallorca 4 days. We're gonna go take the bikes out, all that kind of.
Maybe we should see if we can get into the stadium and have a. That'd be cool.
Are you any good on a bike, Maheta?
There's a cycling
track. There's a track, isn't
there?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, we ride it. We've never been there actually, but it's one of the routes that people do is ride down to it, do a few laps around that, and then carry on, kind of thing. Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
No good on the bike, no.
Terrible.
Really.
Bike and swimming.
Yeah, we are, but we enjoy it.
Yeah, we are. We're not the best, to be fair, mate. You're 39 years old, nearly 40. When are you 40? June?
Yeah, July.
July, sorry. Any plans for your 40th?
I'm kind of boring,
No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not, Maheta.
No, you're definitely not, Maheta.
No retire.
Just low key. You like it low key. Nice bit of food, a bit of wine. That'll do, boom.
That's it.
That sounds good to me,
Okay.
mate. To be honest, yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
We were talking earlier on about training, and obviously the PFA aids and will offer grants, etc., to players to retrain and help them. When you hear players talking and people in particular that go through coaching, and they'll say, "I've done my badges," is that done through the PFA?
Yeah. So we can also. So we have 15 coaches, instructors, who basically help you getting your badges. So that's another service that the PFA provides in terms of coaching education. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for example, guys like Gerard,
Yeah.
these badges with us, Arteta as well.
Yeah. Sure.
So no, and I've got a very good coaching kind of stuff.
The thing I've noticed is it's mainly you don't find many players doing it in their 20s. It's mainly the players that are sort of 30, 31, 32. Once you get to that age, it's almost like I might do my badges. And even if they don't want to go into being a coach or anything like that, a lot of players would still go and get their badges.
Is it a default thing to do, Ben?
It kind of is a default thing to do, because one thing that footballers know most of the time is football.
Yeah.
At least they've got knowledge of tactics. They understand the day-to-day workings of how football clubs work, and it's almost like they're setting of what they like doing. They know that they can turn up into work on a 9 o'clock on a Monday. They'll be leaving by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Friday night they might be in a hotel. Saturday's the game. Sunday's a warm down, and they've become so ingrained in it that it's almost the easy option. Do you know what I mean?
But I think sometimes what I hope that we can do is get them to think it's not just a question of what I like. It's a question of where are the job opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, so for example, a lot of people say, I want to do media studies. Yeah, but there are only so many pundits
Yeah, sure.
and so many podcasts.
Mm.
And hence, you need to think, first of all, are you at the level that you think you are to deliver on what you plan to do? And second, are you picking a profession where there's maybe it's too crowded? So not everyone has your ability. So people just think that stuff are easy.
It's easy. It falls into
So
it's an ego thing with
it's
footballers.
not easy to turn
It
up
is,
and run a
yeah.
podcast as you're doing. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, sure.
And hence, I think the work we're trying to do with the players is, okay, but why you do the coaching badges? Is it just by default? Or is it because you really think that you're good at that? And second, that there'll be like a job opportunity for you?
Yeah, sure.
If not, try to think about another niche where you can find your own space that you're good at, and you may not be competing against 20,000 people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the type of thing that, by the way, we're launching a new PFA business school.
Okay, brilliant.
So we're creating a new school to basically train players.
For the world of business, sports business or anything.
So it's gonna have like 5 main pillars:
Yeah.
healthcare, nutrition, media, law, leadership and management, and then coaching and football.
So this is specific to football.
So it's the first time there's a product which is from the players to the players.
Brilliant. Wow.
So is this a reaction to? My understanding was that there was an online course in Denmark, I think it was, they were offering 3-year courses to be done online for like £300.
What was the course for?
It was for in sports management.
Okay.
So it's sports management, and when COVID hit, the fees went from like £300 to £8,500. Is this something you're aware of, and is that a reaction to this?
No, I wasn't aware of that course. I think again, the beauty of what I do is that I'm not here to turn a profit.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course.
So that's very important. So I can focus on the quality of what we do. Second, I think it comes on the back of when I left Mallorca. I became the co-director of a program for FIFA, where basically we train executives around the globe. So this went from Carlos Bocanegra, who is now the vice president of Atlanta United, to Senderos, who is now the sporting director at Servette.
Is it?
To the president of Cruzeiro in Brazil, or to Cannavaro, who was also part of the course. So we kind of selected 30. Most of them former players, but some of them not. So executive in the football world, and we trained them. So we put them in front of Peter Moore, Liverpool FC, Arsene Wenger. So we really put them in front of different type of very top executive for them to learn. And I could see the level of interest. I could see the traction that he got. And I was always very keen, to do something similar at the PFA if and when the opportunity kind of presented itself.
That's fantastic initiative.
And
it is, isn't it?
Should be really cool. Yeah, I'm gonna ask you to come and talk about your experience
For
in the
sure,
media
honestly.
world and what you've learned.
It's
and
brilliant. I love it because I think there's so many players that just get to sort of 34, 35 and they just haven't got a clue what to do.
And they'll do
Maheta.
the badges.
Yeah,
But
they'll
if
do
you've
the
got-
badges.
If you've got the business angle,
You need other options. You do, because I think a lot of the time they don't know what they're interested in. They don't know what they want to do. But if you can say no, you can use your skill that you've got and then apply it to this, and then you can do that. And I think that's where people need help. So I think that's absolutely brilliant, mate.
Yeah.
Explain how that would work then, because is it going to be sort of available to absolutely anybody that's a member of the PFA?
Yeah, I think if you look at similar programs, those are programs that basically try to open the door into football for people who are not part of the industry.
Uh-huh.
Now, what we want to do is a program which is tailored for the players and for the players' needs. I was giving you the example of, if you put a course in the morning, the players cannot attend.
Ah, sure, yeah, of course.
So at times, players cannot kind of pursue the study just because the way this is structured is incompatible with what they do for a living. So the idea is to say, well, listen, if I train in the morning, we all know that by 5, 6, you're done. Even if you stay longer, do some gym work, by 5, you should be done. So then from 5 to say 9, you have 4 hours, which, what do you do with those 4 hours?
Yeah.
We would love to give a chance to the players to make the most of those 4 hours they have every day, if they wish to. Maybe go for a hybrid model where they can go in part in person and attend like actual courses, or also do it online. And for example, we were discussing before that there are certain days in the year where a normal person is off, but we're not.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So the typical 27th of December,
I
where
was gonna
everyone
say
is having,
Christmas,
enjoying and drinking. We're sitting around at the hotel anyway,
Yeah.
because we would have played on the 26th and play again on the 28th. So why don't we use that day?
Block it out, go and do something.
For do something positive,
Exactly,
and learn about media, learn about law, learn about management, learn about, healthcare. So I think we're very excited. We hope to be able to involve interesting people, from different levels and different stakeholders.
Yeah, sure.
Former players. So I can tell you already that you'll be invited to be one of the speakers,
Beautiful.
lecturers.
Look forward to it.
that'd be
And,
great, Maheta. I'm not
yeah.
being funny, but having players, because obviously they'll have access to obviously coaching, what they want to do with coaching, conventional media as we know it, i.e. punditry, and then for example having Ben come down, and what Ben's done is so unique. Having him speak to some players that might be enrolled would be really invaluable, wouldn't it?
It's fantastic because you can only be what you see.
Yeah, for sure.
And hence sometimes you see the distance being so far away, and why not? You can be a very good goalkeeper. You can play. So I think your example is good because you can be actually playing week in, week out, and still have time to do other stuff.
Yeah.
And one thing does not preclude you from the other.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's still this narrative about. I was talking the other day to an Arsenal player that I will not reveal his name, but a young guy who was very smart, and I was saying to him, I've learned that you're very smart. You've got A levels. So what are you studying? Oh no, I need to focus on my football. And so there is still this narrative about I need to focus on my football as if, it needs to be like the only thing in life.
Of course, yeah.
You can be very focused on football yet not put all your eggs in one basket.
I think Maheta, I think it's so important that you have other avenues of interest. You have
Exactly.
to. You have to have hobbies. Like say, when we first started the cycling GK, there was times where we would lose a game, maybe 2-3-0 or whatever, and I'd still put a vlog out or a video out, and there were people going, "You should just focus on football." And I was thinking, no, do you know what? I shouldn't actually, because
but it's like you being a plumber, and people say to you when you stop working, read books about
watch plumbing.
what's plumbing. No,
No.
Or you're a lawyer, so when you finish working at 6, you go back home and you read the Constitution.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
because as a lawyer, when you get out of the office, you just don't want to hear about law anymore.
The last thing you want to do is hear about
You
law.
want to have a drink with but the problem is that we as players cannot have a drink with our mates because that's incompatible with our life.
Exactly. Yeah.
And hence, what do you want us to do?
You've got to
Just kind
find
of-
something.
You need to find something which is constructive and can help you and hopefully your family as well.
Yeah, brilliant, mate. Okay, so I was just talking about social media there. Obviously, I think in football at the minute, it's massive, the amount of abuse, sort of racist remarks, all that kind of stuff that footballers have been receiving. Is there anything the PFA can do or have been trying to do to work with any of these social media companies, Twitter, Instagram, for example, to try and stop it? Because we've seen so many times that if Instagram want to put a filter on certain words or certain emojis, they can do it. But it's just they sort of pick and choose sometimes.
It's very clear. I think we did a study this summer which covered between 3 and 4 million posts. It's a pretty comprehensive study.
Yeah.
And the outcome was that you can identify who's making the comments. You can report those comments both to the platform as well as to the club, because most of the time you can establish a link between the person who makes the comment and the club. and then you can basically ban them from the stadium. But the third conclusion that if it's not happening, is because people don't want it to happen.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's part of the model. The more people comment and do, it's part of the model. This is about eyeballs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
More users.
But to me, my personal view is that you need to go beyond that. And ultimately, I think in life, you, out of 100 people, you have 15 people who are just hopeless. And I don't want to spend time focusing on them.
Yeah, sure.
And giving them a loudspeaker and a platform to just show their stupidity.
Yeah.
I want to focus on the 30 who are on the fence.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what should I do? And depending on circumstance, it would be doing one thing or the other. I think those are the people that we need to win over.
Yeah.
But I think not from the negativity, from the positivity. So on the topic of race, let's talk about positive story about race.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a Fern Whelan, who's an ambassador at Brighton, such an advocate for a number of different things, who is black.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Les Ferdinand, who's doing very well at QPR, being a former player. Let's talk about Chris Powell, who sat next to Gareth Southgate in the final of the European Championship. Let's talk about Ashley Cole, who's doing very well.
Yeah.
Let's talk about my story, being someone who is not friend with anyone, not son of anyone fancy, yet can be the PFA chief executive just by working hard and based on meritocracy.
Yeah.
So I think we need to, in my opinion, I think this is like when it used to be the case that we just put the cameras on the typical stupid guy who would just walk on the pitch and do stupidity. They stopped showing it on TV because they felt that this was giving those people a platform that they didn't deserve. So to me, it comes to a stage where we need to kind of go after those 15 people who are just useless people.
Yeah.
So we need to punish them.
Yeah.
But that's it. Then I want to spend...
Don't highlight it.
I want
Don't
to
make
spend
a thing
time
of it.
on the 30 or 35 who are just on the fence, because half of the people just get it.
Yeah.
They get diversity. They just conceptually understand that it's just good for society. It's just good. It's the right thing to do. But you have sometimes, the 30, 35 out of 100 who are on the fence. And depending on what happened, they see it one way or the other. And we need to convince them.
They're the ones that you need.
That diversity is not about it's just that even if you only think about this from a business perspective, diverse workforce give you better financial result than uniform one.
Yeah, brilliant, mate.
So I think you need to work on those kind of people from a positive angle, not from the angle of the victim. And if I'm honest with you, that's what I saw at home. So I'm the son of two immigrants. I've been a foreigner all my life. But the narrative will never, we're victim, we don't get this, because they said, you're going to be different.
Yeah.
Accept it. Either because of the way you look, because of your accent, or because you're going to be different. Now the question becomes, do you want to turn this difference into something positive?
Yeah, sure.
Or into something negative because you're going to stand out?
Yeah.
The question is, what do you want it to be? And hence, study, for example. So my father said to me, get a proper job. Don't tell me about sport. Tell me about being a lawyer, being a journalist, being an engineer. Tell me about sport.
Was he a little bit resistant to the football then? Was he?
Very much.
Wow.
So when I had the chance to go to Atletico Madrid, it was not a source of pride in my house to be a sportsman.
Incredible.
Now with time, I think I would disagree with their perception of getting a proper job, because it is a proper job to be a sportsman, because it takes a lot of effort to get there. But I understand what they're trying to say in the sense of, with education, you can beat anyone.
Yeah, sure.
Irrespective of status, of race, of gender, you can really compete against anyone based on your training and education. And I've learned that it was true what he said to me, no?
I tell you what, you just said there about standing out. Well, it's fair to say you definitely stand out.
I think, honestly, mate,
brilliant.
You've been absolutely incredible today. I hope everybody at home has enjoyed it, because I have buzzed off this. You've enjoyed that.
Fantastic.
That's incredible, isn't it? I would say that the chief executive of the PFA being you, I know that we are in good hands, mate, honestly.
It's change.
And honestly, it's really important. It's really, really important. You're doing a fantastic job, and long may it continue. Maheta Molango, thank you so much, mate. Absolutely top class. Right, we always finish every podcast, if you don't mind, mate. I think you can look into that camera. I'll look into this one over here. So I'll go first, Tom, and then you. And it's literally a hand up, and it's up the Fozcast.
Up the Fozcast.
Up the Fozcast.
Love it.
Brilliant.
Well done. Thank you.